Welcome to the Today's Leader podcast, the podcast for the leaders and entrepreneurs of today.
Way to go, guys. Way to go. Keep it going. Good job, guys. All right, Paul, I see you. All right, Charlie. Finish on. Coach Cole.
Great job, guys.
Hey there, it's Coach Cole here, and welcome to Monday Mentoring, episode 311 of the Today's Leader podcast, the podcast for the leaders and entrepreneurs of today. Now, as Coach Curl, I often take on the role of the CEO. So let me just explain what that is. The CEO is the Chief Encouragement Officer. So for a lot of my clients, I am their Chief Encouragement Officer, as well as their accountability partner, as well as their taskmaster. So I do take on a couple of roles. But I first heard about that concept of the Chief Encouragement Officer back in, I'm pretty sure it was 2014, when I listened to Dan Cathy from Chick-fil-A in the United States at one of the John Maxwell certification leadership conferences that I attended. And I really fell in love with that concept of the Chief Encouragement Officer. One of my favorite questions that Dan asked during that presentation was, who needs encouragement? And how do you find out that someone needs encouragement? And you do that by checking to see that they've got a pulse. So if someone's got a heartbeat, they need encouragement. So it was a really life-changing concept that Dan spoke about. So if you've got a heartbeat, you need hope, and encouragement helps people see that hope. And I'm a bit of an optimist, and I naturally encourage people. And I'm sure that listening to this, there are a large number of people who are very similar. They naturally encourage people. But often when we're natural encouragers, it's really important for us to take some extra care to look into the reality of the situation to keep ourselves grounded, that we're not just caught up with the big picture vision, the big picture hope, the big picture encouragement that we know can often be the case. We often talk of vision and hope, and we fail to address sometimes the reality that actually surrounds us. And John Maxwell shares how we can do this, how we can bring reality into the concept of being that Chief Encouragement Officer, being that visionary, being that one that provides hope for people. And John talks about casting a realistic eye. And, for those people in Australia, if you are a Brisbane Broncos supporter currently, you will certainly resonate with this particular process, because while there's a need to have some hope and encouragement that the future will actually be okay for the Brisbane Broncos, the reality is slightly different. So we need to cast a realistic eye. And when we do, John shares the following process. It's really important to think about so number one, it's really important to think about the situation. And the reality is that it's often worse than what we think. It's often worse than what we think. The opportunity is there to gloss over the actual reality, and by being predetermined in what we think the reality is. But by glossing over that, it's just a shortcut to failure. So the opportunity to undertake a complete analysis of the current reality is really, really important, because unfortunately, it's likely to be worse than what we may think. So when we take over poor performing teams, when we take over businesses in need of a turnaround, the reality is it's likely to be worse than what we think it is. And that's really important to understand about the situation. In terms of number two, which is the process. Now, the process will usually take longer than what you may think. Now, as people, we have this great propensity to overestimate what we can get done tomorrow. And this also takes hold in planning and processes. So trust me, when something we believe may take an hour will often take so much more. And this is compounded time and time again over a period of a process. So the reality is, once again, if we think something's going to take 6 months to turn around, in all likelihood, it's going to take much longer. So we need to have that realistic eye that's looking at it and being fair and reasonable in many of these things. We would like to think we can turn it around pretty quick, like the Brisbane Broncos, but the reality is the process is going to take longer than we think. And number 3 is about the price and the budget, because it will always cost more than what we think. Now, every day I work with business owners with their budgets and their forecasts and how that plays out all the time, whether we believe something will cost X amount, it normally ends up costing X plus X. In many cases, almost double what we thought it was going to cost, when you take into account all the associated costs and all the other costs that come with it. So in terms of the price, it will always cost more than what you think. So those 3 areas are really, really important to get some reality in and around the vision that you're thinking. Connecting emotionally with your vision is really, really important, but it's also important to link it back to reality. So this week, work on bringing reality to your vision, the vision that you have as a leader, the vision you have for your business, the vision that you have for your team. And think of those 3 key areas. The situation is often worse than you think. The process will take longer than you think, and the price will cost more than what you think. Your vision is yours. Get out there and get real with the execution. Hi, I'm Coach Cole. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you all again next week. Bye.